It's official!
Hi, welcome to this week's episode of Legally Unapologetic. I am your host, Octavia Green. Now guys, last week I introduced you to a guest by the name of Joy White. Now Joy had a tremendous story. We talked about her struggles, even in the professional realm, surrounding her personal traumas that she had endured, but also those that she had failed to address. The key takeaway for that interview for me was never allow anyone to silence your voice. It was very interesting to hear that Joy knew she needed to tell her story. And for whatever reason, she wasn't able to, a lot of times because people felt like if she did, she would mess up this image of what people, or how people perceived her rather. As a law firm partner, as a general counsel of a university, perfectionism was an expectation, but it was not a reality. Now that was last week, and if you have not heard part one of this two-part series, I encourage you to go back and listen to it. So this week we're talking about the journey. Last week we talked about the story, we talked about the traumas, we talked about what it was that Joy needed to address. And now we're going on our part two of our journey to talk about the journey of healing. And interestingly enough, Joy was able to take, her experiences and really her life and turn that into a business where she now serves as a coach for other individuals who are going or undergoing similar things, and they may not know how to address those traumas. I'm telling y'all, she is truly an inspiration. So without further ado, welcome to part two of my conversation with Joy White. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Legally Unapologetic. The name of your company is Flawed Masterpiece. And I need you to run that down because that acronym flawed, it speaks to your story, but it also stands for something.
It does. It does.
And I need you to break that down for us.
Sure. And I'll say where it came from, I really feel like this business is a calling. And at the top of the pandemic, I was really feeling this strong sense to share my story. Mm-hmm. But I realized, this is more than just sharing my story. This is a business, this is a platform. And so I did prayer, meditation, journaling, and really was just trying to stay open to what is this, what's the brand, what's the business. And so I came across this concept called kintsugi, which is an ancient Japanese art form. And so essentially what they do is they break pottery, porcelain, ceramic, bowls, glasses, vases. They break them and then they put them together. But when they mend them, they use gold, a specific kind of golden joinery, essentially. And so where it's mended, it's golden. So you can see the scars. You can see it traces the scarring. And so the idea, the philosophy behind kintsugi is that your brokenness, the scarring, that is the journey. That's what makes it more beautiful, and tracing it and kind of seeing the story. And for me, that was big because a big part of my story is around not wanting to share my story, being shameful around my story, and then realizing that God was calling me to share it. It's oh no, it's what? You don't want me to share it. Why would I share it? And this concept came up, the story there's beauty in your story. There's power in your story and tracing the scars. And so when I started thinking, I'm a masterpiece. I'm okay, masterpiece. But then a real core part of my journey has been around feeling broken, feeling scarred, flawed. If I was really honest, what's underneath trying to hide so much of myself. And it was this feeling of being broken and flawed. And so then I was to like flawed masterpiece. So I was like, okay, this is great, because it's really like, okay, something that's flawed sounds like it's a problem, but when you put it with a masterpiece, it's like, oh, well, this makes sense, because it lets people know that you are valuing, essentially you're valuing the flaws, because for something to be a masterpiece means it's one of a kind. Right. So, but then I had to go even further with it, right? So it's like, okay, a big part of me being unapologetic, right, has been around like, who am I? What are the things I wanted to hide? And so some of that was around like my story. So like, I showed up a certain way as a professional, kind of going to Spelman, Vanderbilt, starting at King and Spalding. I mastered like showing up in the way that was expected of me. But I realized like a big part of sharing my story also meant I had to be authentic, like my authentic self, which a lot of people really didn't know. You had to know me to know. So I was like, you know, I need to add some flavor to this, because this is who I am. And so flawed is an acronym. So the letters are an acronym. And so I'll just walk you through it.
Please do.
And there's a reason, there's a meaning behind this, but the F is for fuck that.
Yes.
L is for let that shit go. A is for accept reality.
Okay.
W is for woosah, like the Martin the
Lawrence,
woosah.
the woosah.
The E is for embrace healing.
Okay.
And then D is dope as fuck. And here's what these things, because really I realized like what I wanted to offer to people more than just sharing my story is like, what's a path that they can follow to kind of unlock their authenticity, but also the healing, right? So the fuck that is really around societal norms, external expectations. So people are like, I can't believe Joy's cussing. I'm like, listen, I'm not talking about sex. Nobody thinks I'm talking about sex. Like, for the people that, I'm like, no one thinks I'm talking about sex. It's the context never sounds like sex. It's like, oh.
I never got that.
No one ever got that. No one ever did, but they're like, oh, fuck. I'm like, yes. But I realized like what I really was meaning is also like fuck sacred cows, fuck what is viewed as professional, because here's the thing, at the end of the day, as an attorney, people cuss all the time, but black women can't cuss. Like, let's call a spade, because I was like, this is really what this is about, because lawyers cuss. But a black woman cussing is unprofessional. So it's like, okay, so I want to deal with that. So I'm going to like straight trademark this. So like it's trademarked. And it's funny, it took me 3 years to get it trademarked. I got so much pushback by it. And my trademark attorney was like, I've never seen anything like this. She's like, I can't help but think it might have something to do with your race. And this is a white woman. And she's like, I have never in my life seen this. I was like, and fuck that. So really it's like a mantra, like to remind yourself, like when you're getting ready to step into your true authenticity, you gotta reject like any kind of limits that other people are trying to put on you. And so then to let that shit go is really, once it's like the fuck that is like, okay, get yourself amped. And then to let the shit go is really an extension. So my history is being a people pleaser and really trying to show up the way I was expected. I mean, over the top, to the point where people believed it. Like no one knew that I was being fake. I, to some degree, didn't even know I was being fake. So that's, so that's something to get into, because it's like, some people know they're wearing a mask. I did not know I was wearing a mask. I was so disassociated from my authentic self that the parts of me, the wholeness of me, I was like, none of that's me. Just the professional joy, that's who I am. So yes, all these other things have happened, and yes, I do things, but none of that's who I am. This is who I am. So part of the let that shit go is like, no, that you're not. Like let it go, let it go. Like this is, like you had this idea of what you thought life was supposed to be like, what you wanted your life to be like. It's not. And it's not real. Like essentially, like what I was trying to achieve was never really even achievable. So it's like really wrestling that. So first it's like, fuck that, you're amp, and then it's like settling into like, so you gotta let it go. You gotta let it go. And so then A, right, because you could see what's happening here. It's kind of a dark journey that comes back out. Right, it's like, fuck that. And it's like, okay, let it go. And then A is like next level, which is accept reality. And so
so many of us struggle to do.
And so accept reality is like, what's real? Like, what have you experienced? What are you experiencing now in your life? Really, what are you experiencing? So like any kind of things you might have been denial about, things that you think it might be, you're like, no, that's not real. Let me know, like, it's what's real, what's real in your life right now, and wrestling with it. Like, so I'll give an example of where this comes from. When I got ready to leave Morehouse, I left without a job. I didn't know I was starting this business. I just knew, like, this isn't working anymore. And the reason that I knew it wasn't working is I got a hold of some book. It was Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown, which I highly recommend. It's very disruptive. But I got to a point in there, and it was like, when you lack like self-worth, you will perform, you will perfect, you will do all, and it was like this whole little thing, and it's like you'll do all these things to achieve belonging. And I threw the book across the room.
I like it was speaking to you.
Yes, and it was so convicting. Yeah. I'm like, this Holy Spirit, like, who is in here? So I threw it because I was like, I felt like I got hit.
Right.
So then I got in front of the mirror and I was looking at myself and I'm like, okay, so if you're not a lawyer, if you're not a mom, first it was like, if you're not a general counsel, okay, but what if you're not a lawyer? What if you didn't go to Spelman?
Right.
What if you didn't go to Vanderbilt? What if you don't have any kids? Like, what's left? Who are you? Like, if none of those things are there, and accept reality, my real answer, not the answer I wanted to be true, but the real answer was nothing.
Nothing. That's a hard pill to swallow. Sometimes we look at the accolades, we look at the titles, we search for belongings based off of what we achieve. But when you strip all of that away,
there has to be something underneath that.
Right.
And if there's not, then there's a problem.
Right.
So for me, I knew, like, I was like, okay, well, this is not good.
Wow.
Like, well, because then this means that every ounce of who I am, what I am, I'm tying to some type of external, either achievement or role that I have in someone else's life. So fundamentally, I was like, that can't be good.
Right.
So that's accept reality. So then W is Wusa, and really, so meditation, mindfulness, yoga, therapy, like that's what's right there. That's a huge part of my healing journey, and I kind of cobbled this stuff together. Like, I was not able to just find something that was out there that really addressed, like, first dealing with, like, fuck expectation, especially when you've succeeded.
Right.
Like, so it's not like I'm still trying to succeed. It's like, I don't know. Like, I did it.
You said GC, you were up there.
I did it, and then to be like, fuck that. Like, that's a whole, like, what?
It's a 360.
It is.
Yeah.
And then to say accept it, but then what are the different modalities that I really had to settle into to start doing the work? And so it was a lot of meditation, a lot.
Yeah.
Meditation, mindfulness, nature, yoga, like all of these things. And the reason I added in my journey, because it was part of my story, but also sometimes I feel like sometimes that just sits out there on its own. And so some people either are into that or they're not. And I wanted to insert like all of that in there because I'm like, it's critical.
It definitely is.
Because I'm a person that came up in the church, and so I'm all about faith, and it matters. But then there are some things around just silencing your mind and grounding yourself, settling in. And these are not concepts that I was taught. They weren't presented to me by anyone that I knew. And then I saw people over here like, with, you know, we're different kind of folks. Like, I do yoga. I'm like, okay, well, that's not me.
Right.
So I'm intentionally including it in here because I'm like, this stuff matters, and it's powerful, and it's transformational. Like, and it's different than faith.
Right.
Faith matters, but it's not the same thing. It's part of a larger, like, universe, spiritual. So that's the woo side, is like introducing that to folks, because a lot of my clients, they're not on that, and I'm like, we gonna get on that.
Look, a lot of us, period.
They're not on it.
Let's be real, Black people. You know, like, I think, you know, we've always struggled as people, and I'm gonna just say it, Black people, to really spend time and do the work and actually do a deep dive into self. Right?
That ain't what we do.
No. I mean, you still have that conversation about therapy. And the fact that some of us don't believe in it because we don't understand the benefits because we wasn't taught. But that's because generationally we weren't given access to certain things, and you know, it's kind of like it's still a taboo, which is weird to me.
It is. It's like the church. It's just go to church, and I'm like, church matters, but it leaves some things out.
You still got to do some work.
There's still something after that, which is the E. So it's funny that you said, so the E is embrace healing, and so that's where therapy comes in.
Okay.
So it really is about, I'm taking people, like, first you got to be like, fuck that, and then your ammo, let it go, then okay, it's somber, accept reality, okay. Now we're doing yoga, we're doing meditation.
Right.
And then it's like, now let's go to therapy.
And address all of what you just uncovered.
Right. Well, because that's really the point.
Right.
Because it's a deep dive.
Right.
Like, and it comes out, but it's down.
Yeah.
Like it's inner work, it's shadow work, it's inner child work. Like and so the embrace healing, the reason I say embrace is because, right, we got to get Black folks to even be open to it.
Right.
That's why it's embrace. It ain't like just therapy. It's like, no, embrace
therapy.
Embrace it, but it's healing, because, and the reason I say, because that's healing.
Yeah.
Like, I believe in the Lord and supernatural, but there's also like healing things. And so talking through things, and also not just talk therapy. So I'm also a supporter of like alternative forms of therapy, especially for people with trauma.
Okay.
So there's like somatic things about you doing your body, breath work. So it's not just therapy, but it's with trained professionals.
Right.
To do whatever you need to do to really get down in there and really start doing the work. And really the point of embrace healing is start the journey. Yes. Because healing is never an ED on it. No, it's healing, it's always
continuous.
It's continued, but so you started. So it's like, let's start it.
Right.
And then once you got that, then it's like, all right, so if you've let go of shit, you've rejected things, you've done some inner work, you have some self-awareness, now you've got some healing, some support, then it's like, so now let's do dope as fuck, because it's really like, that's where you pop out. It's like, you're the shit. Like, you've always been the shit.
Right.
But it's like, we got to let go of this shit. We got to accept some things, face some things, work on some things to come out at the end where it's like, I've always been dope as fuck. You always been dope as fuck. Like, we wouldn't even be in the spaces we're in if we weren't dope as fuck. Like, you couldn't even be there if you weren't. But the fact that I didn't know it,
that's the sad part.
Is right. Yeah. It's really sad.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's my little like, here's the process. And like, even I have some images like with my business when I launched it, and all the pictures are in black and white. And people are like, what are you doing? I'm like, no, because it's dark. And part of the reason that I'm doing it the way I'm doing, because there's some stuff that's dark.
Right. Right.
And we can't always just be rah rah and shine. Like,
that's not real life.
That's not right.
Right. That's not real life.
So it's like everything in the whole thing is like black and white, dark, and then it's like dope as fuck in color. Because it's like life. There's a full life that you can live, and that's really the point. So when I coach people, it's like, we got to go through this process. To now, what kind of life do you want?
Yeah.
Now let's design a life based on who you really are, what you really want. That's the point of it. It's like, but we got to go through that first, because it's like, if you try to create some plan first, like, I want to pivot, it's still gonna be fake shit. It's just gonna be more fake shit about like what you think you should be wanting, as opposed to, so you don't even know. A lot of my clients, they don't even know what they really want.
That's real. That's right. So that's kind of ironic that you say that, right? Because, you know, I'm on a sabbatical, coming out of a sabbatical. And that was the main reason why I took the break that I took, right? It's okay, I could jump to another job. You know, I had people trying to get me in-house here and in-house there. And it's like, but I don't know if that's what I want to do. So, yeah, I can jump out of the fear of, oh, I'm leaving this job and my bills need to be paid, or I could take a step back, do my calculations. Okay, I need X, Y, and Z to live for however long. I'm good. Let me step back and then do the work. So you say yoga, you say, you know, Pilates, you say therapy. All of that was a part of my process, right, for the last couple of months.
And how did it feel? Like,
amazing. You know, I think I'm probably more calm than I've been in years. I tapped into new interests. I personally have always been athletic, but even now in the gym, that's a 5-day a week
and it's like you want to do it. Like
I have to do it. You know, that's my therapy, right? But you also, I'm well rested, but I also know what Octavia wants. And I think too often, you know, especially in this profession, we move how people want us to move.
Period.
Right? And we assimilate because we want to belong. But when you step back, it's like, wait.
Like, I don't even like that shit. Like, and I'm grateful. That's why I'm so grateful to be having this conversation with you, because I think more people should do it sooner.
Yes.
Like, you're earlier in your career, and I'm so happy you are doing it now. I mean, seriously, because I mean, that's part of what I had to release when I really accepted, like, damn, you've been doing this shit for a long time. And I actually do like practicing law. Thank God that I actually like practicing law. But the version of, like, it's your whole life, and it's you only hang out with lawyers, you eat, breathe, and sleep lawyers, and the lawyers club, and the bar, and I'm like, that is not life.
That's not life.
That's not life. It's important work, and it is, like, you worked hard, we all worked hard to get here, so it's not to be like, oh, this is nothing. No, it is something.
It's definitely a huge accomplishment.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And it's a necessary role, like, in the world, and service to the world, and that ain't why you on the earth.
Right.
You're not on the earth for that reason.
Right.
I'm not on the earth. I was not born into this world to be a lawyer.
Right.
Nobody was. Nobody, like nobody's calling and purpose in life is to be a lawyer.
Right.
And that's it. Like,
something bigger, right? And you have to be able to tap into those spaces, right? Joy today, who is she?
I am joyful. No,
okay.
No, I mean, seriously. Really, I'm free. I'm happy. I'm happier than I've ever been. And and people who know me, they're like, damn, like, you're so different. Like, they're like, we used to think you were happy. Because I put on a smile. Listen, no one ever necessarily thought I was, like, not happy.
Right.
But it's like, I'm really happy. I'm really happy. And life is not perfect, but it's like nothing I've ever experienced, because it's like, dang, I don't have this overwhelming sense of, one, hide everything. Hide everything that is problematic, one. And, you know, once I did the self-work and healing and realized where a lot of this stuff came from, you know, my childhood and just the different traumas I had, and understanding how that attacks your self-worth.
Right.
Like, what it teaches you is a lot of stuff. And so that has to be unlearned. That's the thing, it's a lot of unlearning. But doing that work, I'm like, man, life is great. Like, I'm happy, I'm peaceful, I'm genuine.
Right.
I have genuine connections with people.
Right.
That was a big thing. I'm like, damn, I didn't realize that I really never had genuine connection with anyone.
They were all fake. Like,
because you can't have 80% of you hiding.
Right.
You can't be ashamed of 80% and stuffing it and then have genuine connection. You can never.
Right.
Like, when I did my short film, someone, and they weren't trying to be mean, but it kind of hurt my feelings. They were like, did I ever know you? Whew. I was like, ow. But I was like, you know, whew. I know, right? Because they were like, we're friends.
Right.
How do I not know any of this? And they're like, we're friends.
Right.
I'm like, look, you know me, you knew me as well as I knew me. That's the truth. I was like, and as far as I was concerned, I thought all that stuff was just, it's not me.
Yeah.
It's like, this is not me. So why would I tell you some stuff that's not me? Like, that's just some stuff that happened to me, and we don't have to talk about that. We don't have to address that. This is who I am.
Right.
I'm this person.
Right.
So I was like, no, I wasn't willfully hiding, like, to hide from other people. I was hiding from myself.
Right, because it was hard to face. Yeah.
And then when I tried to pull it out, people was like, put that shit back up. They're like, wait, hold up, wait, close that. Which I want people to hear that too. Like, if somebody's trying to share something, like,
listen,
it takes so much to get to a point to be able to share your truth. And it's like, maybe just point them somewhere else, but don't just shut people down. Because I'm like, I'm a grown-ass woman, and I took a lot of hits just to get this story out.
But you still got it out. and you still and
And just dropped it in the middle of a CLE.
Just dropped it in the middle of a CLE, but it's definitely on YouTube. I'm gonna try to. You and I discussed this. I'm gonna try to roll it. But if we run into any legal issues, we're both lawyers. We might run into issues. Okay. I'll definitely include the link because I think it's something that people need to see. I didn't watch it a few times. Because it's just one of those things like, wow. And
the sad thing is, it's common.
Yeah.
Like everything that I showed in there is like, it's common.
But you were also somebody that, to your point, you had everything, right? But did you really have everything?
That's the thing when you realize, and that's why I think a lot of people just cover that back up. Because it takes a lot to face up to, okay, my life is shit, but I have everything. Like to really reconcile that. Like, well, because then it's like, well, who am I?
Right. Outside of the accolades, outside of the money, outside of the six-figure job, whatever it may be. Some people,
when your real answer is like, damn, I don't even, because here's the point, a lot of people don't know who they are.
Right.
Like, it ain't just black women. It's a lot of professional people where their jobs demand so much of them, they identify through their job. Mm-hmm. So that is not unique to me. Mm-hmm. I think what was unique is like, okay, I have all this trauma and I'm trying to like stomp on top of it like it's not real, and then it started popping out.
It's gonna come out like a cancer.
Yeah. So I was like, oh my God, like, what, get back here. Like, even my therapist, she had to help me learn to love and embrace all the aspects of me. That was the big part. That's where the flawed masterpiece comes from, because it's like, I have a part of me that will fight you. Like if I'm if triggered and it is like legit, like I fight, not verbally fight, like straight.
Yeah.
And my therapist, because I was always so ashamed of that, I'm like, what? How am I here being Miss Professional? And then Gangsta Boo comes out, and I'm like, they're scared. I'm like, damn, I didn't want y'all to know about this. Now we're here.
Here we are.
We're here. And she said, listen, that person helped you survive. And you have to appreciate that aspect of you, because in that season of your life, that's what was needed.
Right.
And I was like, damn, that's deep. Because even something like that, you can have shame around something, because it's like, this is not who I want to be. And it's like, that person kept me alive.
Yeah. Survival.
Straight
survival.
And it's like, you have to be grateful for your survival skills instead of, for me, demonizing them. So that was the whole thing, like all these aspects that I thought made me less than. And I'm like, damn, that's where the flawed masterpiece comes from. Like, that is me. Like, that's not the trauma, but like that fighter spirit. Like, that's why I'm able to be doing what I'm doing. So it's like, you got to turn around and love that aspect of you, not be trying to stuff it behind the couch.
Embrace all of you. Because if you don't, who will? Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I've learned a lot this evening. First off, let me again say thank you, because this is deep. I got some, I know I'm thinking, I know that I even want to go upstairs and start working on some of my own, issues, because it's just like, again, to your point, how can you truly be happy and successful in whatever space you may be in if you haven't necessarily pulled back, the mask and really looked at yourself in the mirror and figured out who you are.
And you're worthy of it. I'm worthy. Like, we're all worthy of that. That's what I think the thing is. It's like, what's the point of all this? And it's like, I want black women and people who've experienced some of the things that I've experienced to know, like, you are legit deserving of joy, peace, happiness. Like, because here's the thing, if you don't deal with that stuff, it's not possible. Like, you cannot experience certain things and then just bop around in life. Like, you might think, because that's what I tried to do.
No,
it's not
going to come out.
That shit is coming out.
Yes.
And listen, the harder you try to stuff that shit, it's going to be the Jack in the Box.
Yeah.
And it'll wait. And here, to your point, you don't want to cause harm to other people. Right. You don't want to disrupt other people, people that care about you. You don't want to wait until, like, you are having a full-on, like, psychotic break, having to be hospitalized, which can happen. And if it happens, go to the hospital. But it's like, this conversation is so people can like proactively
Yes.
do
Look
that.
at themselves in the mirror and kind of figure it out.
And start working
and
through
start
that.
Working on it. None of us are perfect, right? I mean, that's evolution, and being able to evolve in life means sometimes being able to do the hard work and sit down and actually look at yourself. Pandemic was hard for me for that reason, right? I used to joke with friends, and I said, "Oh hell, I don't want to be stuck in the house," And when I said it the first couple of times, people were like, "Was
Right.
like she's joking?" But then when I said it a few more times, they're like, "Oh no, this is really real for you." Well, guess what? We're about to go down into a lockdown, so you really need to cope with the fact that you about to, but utilize that time, right? What is it? What are you running from? What is it that you don't necessarily, want to sit down and actually think about?
That's the point.
Yeah.
And people know when they're running.
Of course.
We all know when we running.
Of course.
I was running. And running can look like joining another board, volunteering.
Going out.
It could be going out and stuff. It can also be taking on a whole bunch of other responsibilities.
Oh, yeah.
And you just run. I got this meeting, I got this, I got that. For me, it was the same thing, the pandemic. When I slowed down, I was like, and for me, I was like, this is so relaxing. I was like, so the whole world is shutting down. And I'm like, this feels good. So I was like, that's weird too. Right. I was like, something's got to be weird about it. I feel relaxed when the entire world is shutting down. Which lets you know how hard I was running.
Exactly.
Like, and that's what I was doing. I was running hard, and then you just running, and then you're like, oh shit, I'm relaxed. And it's like, oh,
now I gotta face this.
I'm like, oh, but it's the most powerful work that I've ever done. And the reason I'm glad we're talking about this, because people will avoid it, but it's worth it. Like, it is worth it, because you're like real your real purpose. That's what's on the other side of this work. And law will be there.
Of course.
It'll always be there.
Of course.
But who you are, like, there's like, and it's like corny, but there's only one you. Like, whatever you're here to do, you're the only person that's here to do that.
Okay.
And I really think, like, no one's here to practice law. Like, they're not on the earth to practice law.
Right.
So it's like, if you don't ever do this work, how will you ever know? Like,
what your real divine purpose is.
And I believe everybody has a divine purpose.
I like that. Y'all heard that.
Everybody
has a divine purpose. So you have to do the work to really figure out what that purpose is. So I appreciate that. I think that's our positive word.
Yes.
I was going to ask you, take us out with a positive word, but I think that's it. I do.
And I think just, this would be the thing, radical self-acceptance.
Ooh. Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Radical, and I added it because again, it's about the embracing. Like, radical is like, I got a person that'll fight you, I got a person that'll lead your organization, I got a person that'll handle your case, I'll raise the kid, I'll cook dinner, I'll hold you accountable. Like, I accept all of that. I have an inner child that gets afraid of things and fearful, and I'm gonna accept all of it.
Ooh. Okay.
Because that's the radical part, not just the parts. This, like, the
pretty
whole
parts, but
package.
Everything.
That's the point. And it's a beautiful way to live life. Like, it is truly the most rewarding way. And I think that's the point. Like, you'll be happier. You'll be happier, and you'll be more sincere with people.
Right.
When you accept everything about your story.
I like that. Wow. But thank you so much for that.
Well, thank you.
Before I let you go, I do have to give you the chance and the opportunity to let people know where they can find you.
Sure. So on Instagram, I'm at Joy White. So it's just my name. Look, I got it before. I was like, oh, look at me with Joy White. So it's Joy, Joy, White, like the color. And then my website is joywhite.me. So me. So it's not .com, .me. And so there you will have access to my law firm, my products, my coaching, my speaking. It's kind of what I call the Joy White experience.
Ooh, I like that.
The whole experience.
A whole brand out here.
The whole experience.
Whole brand. Well, look, I have to thank you so much for coming on to Legally Unapologetic, being unapologetically yourself. I asked you for it, and you delivered. You did not fail, but also, taking the time to really share your story. I know that our listeners and our viewers definitely got something out of that. I told you this when we first met. You never know the impact that your story has on someone, and you out here saving lives. So continue being an advocate, continue being a light, and continue being your joyful self, because it's greatly, greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate the opportunity. Seriously.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So there you have it. Wow, 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 wow. What an amazing experience. I am so fortunate that I had the opportunity to share this stage and this space with Joy White. Joy, I have to thank you again for coming onto my platform, for being a voice, for being an advocate, and for sharing your story. I told you when we first met, your video, your story, your resilience, your perseverance, all of it was an inspiration. And I truly believe that you are out here saving lives. It takes a lot for us to face ourselves in the mirror. And a lot of times we do hide the ugly truth out of fear of what and how people will perceive it. But what I learned most from my conversation with Joy is that you gotta get that shit out. You gotta let it go. You gotta be able to embrace it and heal from it. But that means you have to accept it. During my conversation with Joy, I was reminded of Beyonce's song Pretty Hurts from her 2013 Beyonce album. And I won't sing because 1, God did not bless me with that voice. 2, I don't want to go viral. And 3, I don't want to scare you guys away. I need you to come back and support Legally Unapologetic. However, I will leave you with the lyrics. I have to read them because if I'm not singing them, I don't get it. But again, we're not going to sing. So Beyonce said, when you're alone all by yourself and when you're lying in your bed, reflection stares right into you. Are you happy with yourself? You stripped away the masquerade and the illusion has been shed. Are you happy with yourself? Are you happy with yourself? I hope the viewers and listeners were able to get a lot from this conversation. I know that I was truly touched by it, but it also reminded me that I too have work that I need to do. We are human, guys, and we are forever evolving. And as part of that evolution, it means being able to stare at ourselves, being able to embrace who we are and what we have been through, and also embrace where we're going. But sometimes you can't get to where you're going without acknowledging what you've been through. This has been another episode of Legally Unapologetic. If you guys have not, please follow us on our social media handle, Legally Unapologetic, all one word. Joy White was able to leave you guys with her contact information. Please check her out. She's doing some great things here in Atlanta. Make sure that you follow her too on IG, as well as check out her webpage. And if you have not, please go check out her short film. Support it and pour into her. I appreciate y'all for coming through and listening to this week's episode of Legally Unapologetic. Until next time.